the big question on my mind is...
What is the big question on your mind, hon?
Do you know why it's so important to know the difference between praise and rewarding your dog?
I know that most people don't, because that's why we decided to use this as the live stream topic tonight.
That's a fact, yeah.
Because it's a deep topic and something that a lot of people are confused about. Hopefully, by the end of this hour, you're going to be an expert
for
on
sure.
the topic.
And what's kind of cool about it is once you understand the difference between the two, your dog will be learning faster. You will be able to understand how to acknowledge some of those good behaviors versus the great ones.
Yep.
It's going to speed up your dog training. Your dog's going to feel like it's more engaging and entertaining, and that's really what we're trying to do.
Dogs
in
are craving
these live
clarity,
streams.
basically.
For sure,
and
yeah.
This is one of the ways that you can have more gray.
For sure. We often talk about being clear, consistent, and fair with your dog. And in today's live stream, we're going to tell you exactly how you can be just a little bit more clear with them, which is going to unlock a lot of motivation and speed. And it's going to change your dog training. It certainly changed mine. It really helped me to understand a little bit better, the dog training process. Can I get you to move over just a little bit?
Nope, I want to be in the center of the live
Okay,
stream.
we're going to have something come up right there, and it might I don't want it to cover your face. Okay, so we're here, and we are pumped to be hanging out with you guys. So in today's live stream, it's going to be a little bit more of a deep dive. So for those of you who are looking to just teach your dog to sit or walk on a loose leash, we're going to go deeper than that today. It's all about puppy training tips, the difference between praise and reward. I'm Ken Steepe.
I'm Kayl McCann.
And welcome back to McCann Dogs. So I noticed a couple people are mentioning in the chat that there's a hurricane on the way, and I hope everyone is staying safe. It seems like it's pretty scary out on the east coast of the U.S. So we get people to jump in from the Carolinas, and I hope everybody is at higher ground or safe and far enough away from the storm that they can be safe. But we want to thank you guys for joining us here in the train station. Now we have a couple really interesting things. You might notice already that we're moving a little bit differently. I don't know. It may be a little harder to see it on stream. But
now Ken looks good when he dances.
Yeah,
show us his move, hon.
Is this better now? Am I better at that? No?
No.
Okay. We're moving at 60 frames a second, so make sure you click your viewing window. If you're actually watching on Facebook, make sure you get out of Facebook. Hop on over to YouTube, search McCann Dogs, jump into the chat. It's going to be a way better experience for you. You'll also have access to some of the resources that we're going to be using on screen. So if you click this link in Facebook, make sure you head out of Facebook and over to YouTube. There's a couple of things that I wanted to mention. Now, if you are a regular here in the train station, I want to welcome you back. More importantly, I want to remind you of something that happened last week. I think it's going to be something we do on a weekly basis.
Oh, dear.
And Kayl has no idea that I was going to do this. But were you here last week? Let me know in the chat. If you weren't here, we had the Battle of Ages. We did a treat stacking challenge. We have another challenge to show you guys today. And
I feel like I might have this challenge.
At the end of the show, you're going to see Kayl eat a bunch of dog treats.
No,
that's basically what I'm
going
going
to see Ken eat a bunch of dog
That's what you
treats.
saw last time. And let's just throw back.
I did, and I was a good loser.
Let's throw back to that.
Oh, no.
So,
come on.
You guys remember this? Oh,
that's Ken winning.
Won. Treat stacking
Look
champ.
at how excited you are.
I mean, it's not an official title, but I'll take it.
Oh, my God. You literally put treat stacking champ under your name?
Yes, yeah. I thought it was pretty interesting. And I don't know.
Guys, I have to win.
Yeah, and actually, I want to show you guys really quickly. It's over here. The battle to be crowned champion continues tonight. So stay tuned to see who the treat stacking champion of the McCann Dogs train station studio
is gonna lose
will
this week.
Be.
Shout out to my girl Patricia.
I don't know, Patricia. Everyone thought that Ken was gonna lose last week, but he didn't. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I just sound like a bully when I say it like that, and I don't mean to. But sometimes it's really exciting for us, and I'm hoping for you guys as well. I have to let
him win at something. So
we tonight and for the next 36 hours, we have a pop-up store where we're going to be able to provide you guys. We have 3 different items on the store. I'm really pumped about this, and I've actually heard from a couple of our trainers that said they want to get some of these things. So for 36 hours, if you check out the link in the description below, you can get a McCann Dogs cap.
I like the hat.
For training when it's sunny outside. A fur family for the win. You know those days when you're just like tired and all you want to do is hang out with your dog, train your dog. Maybe you're tired of your spouse yelling at you and you just want to get out there and train your dog.
Or you're tired of your spouse trying to come up with stupid games that he can beat you at.
That's a good point. then Fur Family for the Win is the training bag for you. So make sure you check that out. And we also have the McCann Dogs mugs, because sometimes you need a little bit of morning go-go juice. You need a little something
anytime throughout the day.
When you're planning that training session. You know, you just need a little something to get going. Or anytime during the day. That's a good point.
Let's talk about dog training.
But I wanted to let these guys know that you can check out that store in the link in the description below. So it's only open for 36 hours. So if you're into that stuff, definitely check it out. Now, something we do every week that I want to do again is roll call. Let me know where you guys are joining us from. I see some people that have jumped in already. I'm pretty excited about that. So in just a minute, we'll get back to those. So let's talk about the high level difference or the high level of what we're going to be taking a deeper dive into today here, Kayl.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about the difference or the proper uses of praise in your dog training and also reward in your dog training, and the fact that those two things are actually different from one another and can be used together, or they can be used separately as well. A lot of people have a hard time distinguishing between the two, and they often are rewarding everything, or sometimes they're rewarding and they're not including a lot of praise. So we want to talk to you about kind of what we feel about both of those areas of training and how you can use them best in your training. And this is for training any type of behavior, from something as simple as sit to, you know, coming when they're called, or a really complex trick, or whatever, agility, whatever it is. The difference between praise and reward and how to use those things is going to work on any of those platforms.
For sure. I see some of you guys jumping into the chat. I see Hubbard's, Nova Scotia, Victoria, Australia, Fredericton, New Brunswick.
Got at Fort Myers.
Oh, cool.
We go there often.
Betsy Craig from Perth, Australia.
Nice.
Very cool. We have 2 Australians in the chat right now. I see Patricia from St. Louis,
Nova Scotia,
Halifax, Jacksonville. And actually, I'm going to put this up because we just mentioned, for those of you on the East Coast, I think there's a heck of a storm. It's a hurricane. I don't know whether it's still a hurricane or not, headed your way. But Kinder Teacher says, from Jacksonville, North Carolina, but went inland to Asheville for some real life puppy training. Thanks to your tips, sunny day is shining bright. That's a pretty cute name.
So cute.
Yeah, very cute name. I see.
I'm a fan of the double names, if you haven't noticed already.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty. It's pretty apparent when you check out all of our dogs' names. We have some Grand Slam, Hippie Shake, Funky Monkey, Beeline. Yeah. Do you have
Jitterbug, Ping Pong?
Jitterbug. Yeah. Kayl's older dogs. Mm-hmm. I have Deegan and Mac. That's it. I like the short. Yeah, I actually like it. I want to say a big hello to SD Cruiser. He said, hot as Hades in San Diego, where summer waits to come until fall. Yeah, I wish it were like that here, SD Cruiser.
Yeah, it's actually pretty perfect here right now.
It is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into this. Let's jump into the talk today. So in the beginning, when we're talking about using food in our training, we use a lot of food with our puppies, the young dogs as they're learning. We use tons of food, and
positive reinforcement, just get the dog doing it correctly, get them motivated to do it, and the easiest thing to do is to use something that they're motivated by.
Totally.
And typically that's food.
Yeah. It's a resource that they understand. It's something that they really, really want. Mm-hmm. And actually in the video earlier this week, we talked about it. If you haven't seen that yet, you definitely should check it out. If you're invested in advancing in your dog training, it's a pretty important video. But we talked about using food at basically timing for food reward and how you don't become dependent on food. A big element of that is how you use your voice and praise, how praise impacts your dog training.
I think that's really important because there's a lot of people out there that are really sort of apprehensive to use food in their training because they don't want to become dependent on it. They don't want the dog to only learn to listen when they have food.
Right.
And that is absolutely possible. It is possible for sure. We see it all of the time. But timing and the proper use of it and when to use it, when to not use it, are all going to be ways that you can wean off of the food really effectively. And that's how we train our own dogs. I use all kinds of food when I'm first starting out any training with my dogs, and then I start to transition in a very deliberate way of off the food, so that eventually my dog does what I want them to, whether I have food or whether I have absolutely nothing as well. But there is the stepping stone that you need to do to get there.
Yeah, and I think something that's really important for everyone to remember is that praise doesn't mean reward. You can't really use the two interchangeably. They supplement, augment each other, but you can't just exchange one for the other when it comes to your dog's learning. At some point, praise would be as valuable as reward. But when you're talking about puppy training, when you're talking about young dog training, you really need to separate the two. And let's talk
we
about
should
that.
probably say what they are. So when we refer to the word praise, we mean like the tone of voice that you use, the types of words that you use with your dog. We also use petting and play and things like that. When we say reward, that would be when we are, physically giving our dog a treat or letting them tug on a toy or whatever it might be. They actually receive something physical versus, praise, which would be our voice. And what's neat about understanding the difference with the two is you can also be able to train your dog with different variances of what you like. So if my dog does something that's like fairly good but not amazing, I might choose to simply praise that effort and be exciting and still give positive feedback. I don't want to either be like nothing or everything, or if my dog does something really wonderful, then I might praise and reward that. If my dog does something spectacular, I might throw a party and feed and do what we call jackpot, and I would give lots of rewards as well. So by being able to differentiate between praise and reward, I can actually change the type of information I'm delivering to my dog based on what I love and what I don't love.
Right, and this is how you're going to get it. And I've noticed a couple of people, with young dogs in the chat, or they're just about to get a dog. I'll show those in just a second. But this is where you're going to start to get that motivated dog. We focus on motivation. We want you to have a dog who loves training and who loves to work with you. And a big part of that is starting to discriminate between the good behaviors and the great behaviors. We're going to talk in just a couple of minutes about how you can start to do that. But let's talk about how you can use praise effectively. And let's sort of dive into, the value of your voice and when to use it appropriately.
Yeah, and I think the first thing that I would want to talk about is sort of, I guess it's like my biggest pet peeve, but it's the thing that I see happens wrong most often. And that is people often praise their dog for something that's not really worth praising in that moment. They just sort of praise because it's like the thing that you do. So I'll give you an example. Something really simple. They might say sit, and the dog's not really sitting yet, and the person's like, yes, good, sit, good. The dog's butt's not even on the floor yet, and then the dog sort of goes, what? Or another one is they call the dog's name, and the dog continues to sniff, and they say, good girl, good girl. And it's almost like they're using the good girl to get the dog to pay attention. But what you don't realize is if you're now praising your dog for sniffing the floor and not reacting to you. So it's really important that the timing of your praise happens during a moment when your dog is doing a behavior that you really want them to repeat or you really like, and you're not just praising any old thing.
Yeah, and we see this in our dog training students. Occasionally, someone is so focused, they're thinking about what they need to be doing right, that they stop thinking about the little four-legged family member at the end of their leash.
Yeah.
So this good boy, way to go, as they're looking directly at you or at me or an instructor, and they're not really paying attention closely to what their dog is doing because they think that by praising their dog is just naturally going to be just pay attention to them. And that's not always the case. So you need to start to discriminate a little bit between, that walking in tight position, ignoring distractions, doing something that's great and just happening to be at the end of the leash. As long as your dog's not pulling on leash in the early stages, I might use some praise. I might try to get that focus from them, but make sure you know why you're praising when you're praising.
Another thing that I think is really important to say, and those of you who watch our live stream on a regular basis, oh my God, how about I speak normal English so that you can understand me? For those of you who watch our live stream on a regular basis, is what I was trying to say, is you probably know the answer to this question, but dogs have a certain time frame in which we need to deliver information so that they actually understand. And that time frame is literally only 1 second. So if your dog does something right, or if they do something wrong, you only have 1 second to deliver that information for them to actually comprehend what you're saying. So in knowing that, we also have a special marker word that we use that comes just before we praise our dogs for something or reward our dogs for something. And so we like to use the word yes. You could also use a click. I've often used clicker when I train my dogs as well. I really like to use the word yes for most things though, because I have my voice on me all the time and I can change the inflection of my voice. There's lots of things that I can do. So Ken, Yes. So if I say
Now remember to be genuine when your dog does something great, like turns the first time on their name. Make sure you're genuine because it actually translates down the leash to them.
That was the best response name. That was the best response name he's had all week, guys.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so I said yes, and then I praised from there. So yes needs to happen as soon as the dog pays attention to you, and then you can follow that with praise to make sure that the dog continues to be engaged with you. So, make sure that it's not just good boy, good girl, good this, good that. Mark the behavior that you love first with the word yes, and then follow that with the praise that you're using.
Yeah, I've got I noticed Dan the Man just dropped a link in the chat for Christina Ramsey. How do you train them to focus on you? We're actually going to talk about that a little bit when we get to rewards. So we're going to chat about praise. If this is your first time here, we usually do a little bit of information delivery. Then we start to answer some of your questions. Then we'll do the second half. And then we'll come back and we'll answer more of your questions. But make sure you're asking your questions all along the way because we're keeping a close eye on
catching them.
Yeah, what's happening. I did want to mention something, though. As Dan the Man, as we're talking about praise, Dan the Man, we forgot to go live to him today.
Oh,
and I hate to break tradition. That? I know there's so many new things happening. I'm trying to break the stream, basically, guys. Each and every week, I want to bring you something new and like something just a little bit better. And there's so much going on today that I'm a little bit distracted on all the bells and whistles, but not too distracted to go live to Dan the Man. Now he's working from home today.
He is.
Yeah, he is. So I know that he was at home, and it was easy to track him down with the live stream camera. So let's see what he's up to right now. Oh, he's watching football, I guess. Okay, yeah. No, we won't say anything, Dan. Don't worry about it, buddy. Okay. Anybody that's here, do not mention that to Dan's boss. We don't want anybody to know.
That's so silly.
He's sort of he's taking care of not only the live stream but also the football game. I guess it's first night of football. Okay. So, let's talk a little bit about this. Or is this what you covered already?
I just talked about that, yeah. Be aware of what you're praising. So we'll go on to the next thing. This is really good. Be aware of how you're praising your dog. So this is really important. So when you're training your dog, you can definitely change the volume or the intensity of your voice. Ken was joking earlier about being genuine. You certainly want to be genuine in your praise, but you also want to make sure that your praise is appropriate for the behavior that you're practicing. So for our training, when we're teaching something that we want the dog to be stationary in, so something that's more calm, like stays, or teaching the dogs not to jump up or to lie down calmly or whatever that is, our praise for our dog needs to accompany the type of mental state we want the dog to be in. So if we're looking for a calm, relaxed posture, we're going to praise in a calm and relaxing way, more soothing. Vice versa, if I'm trying to get my dog excited and motivated and jazzed up, or if I'm trying to reward a recall or my dog's response to name and I want my dog to be a bit more lively, my praise needs to be more lively. And I know this sounds like, well, of course it does. This is like idiot-proof stuff, but you wouldn't believe how many people either get so excited when their dog does something right that their dog's laying so perfectly and they're like, yes, good dog, and then they praise and the dog's like, oh my god, and they pop out of the position and now
making it so
it
much harder for their poor dog.
Yeah, or there'll be times where like we're practicing a recall and the dog will do such a good job and I'll be sort of instructing and I'll say, yes, that's so good, and my praise, because I'm loud and obnoxious, it over sort of powers the person who's training, and then all the dog wants to do is run to me because the dog says, whoa, you sound like a lot of fun. So you need to learn when to ramp it up so that your dog is just all about you. And you also need to learn to tone it down when that is appropriate as well. Yeah.
So really pay attention to this, because this seems to be something that students really have a tough time understanding, because they're genuinely excited that their dog just did a stay and a tough distraction went by. You know, they're genuinely excited when their dog does some stationary behavior and they can't wait to get back in and praise and reward and do all of the things. And it is important. But you really do need to temper that, moderate that, so that it's not a greater distraction for your dog. Because the last thing you want to do is they've worked so hard and then they get out of position. Yeah. You know, they've done a great job, and then in your zeal and zest, I'm using all sorts of fun words today.
You're really
you accidentally get them out of that position. So the other thing is, in some situations, maybe a motion exercise, maybe you do need to get really bubbly. Maybe you do need to be more entertaining and whatever that exciting and more of a focus attention getter than this kid's soccer game or something like that. You might need to raise that level of interaction and raise the pitch and tone of your voice. I don't know. Whatever it's going to take to help your dog to be successful. But really think, as you're working through with your dog, what's the appropriate amount of praise here? How do I praise them before I make it all the way back to them?
And I think the last thing that's important to talk about in terms of praise before we move on to something else is making sure that you are praising something that you actually, want the dog to do. So, and I sort of touched on this a little bit before. I don't think we even need to get up for this. I think we can do the response and name again, but about praising on commitment.
Okay.
You're going to be the dog, sweetie.
Okay.
So look away, get distracted. Okay. So if Ken's my dog and he's a little bit distracted and I call his name, what a lot of people end up doing, and hopefully he knows what to do wrong right now, is they end up doing this. Ken, good boy, good. Ken, yes, good boy, yes, good. So I praised him and I said yes, and he was like looking over here. So what you need to do is this. Be good dog now. Oh, no, don't look at me.
It's hard.
Ready?
Yep.
Ken, yes, good boy, woo! So I yes and reward when he is looking at me. That's what I'm pinpointing, and then I can praise from there. What I don't want to be doing is saying yes as my dog is completely ignoring me. So make sure that you're aware of your timing and that you're delivering your information with the right amount of intensity, like we just said, but also your timing is spot on, because if you're having trouble. Oh my God.
Struggles. You're having
I didn't
struggles.
even teach today and I can't even talk today. If you're having struggles with this, check out your timing. You could be slightly off in when you're giving your dog information, and maybe just simplifying that for your dog can change everything for them so that they understand more so what you're asking of them.
Yeah, and that yes is going to be that moment in time that your dog's right. Don't yes everything. That moment that your dog makes.
Yes needs to be special.
Yeah, it does. You really do need to save it for those really special moments. But we talked in several live streams, and if this is your first time here, we do a lot of talks about puppy training, and loading up the word yes is very, very powerful. Really teaching your dog that every time they hear that word something great happens is a great way to teach them.
Speak.
Yeah, I know. It's
coming
I've
off
contracted it. Okay, so let's jump into.
SD Cruiser, you're funny. I think the role needs to change to the person that ate the dog treat. So apparently I need to be the dog.
Oh, so if you've just jumped in on the stream, I'm not going to play the trailer again, but at the end of tonight's...
Yes, please don't.
At the end of tonight's live stream, there's going to be a head-to-head competition.
Ken's going to eat some dog food.
It's going to be a head-to-head competition of treat tossing this time, and the loser has to eat the dog treats. So hang in.
I'm going to start stretching out my fingers.
It was pretty spectacular
working on my aim.
Okay, let's talk about rewarding. You know what? Before we get there, I've seen lots of great questions come in on the chat. I want to jump into some of these. So Patricia Thompson, are the treat bags going to be in the pop-up store?
I love our treat bags.
Yeah.
Oh, mine's upstairs.
No, they're not.
Show it off.
We're sort of laying the groundwork.
Should I go get it?
No, we can get it later. Okay. We're going to be laying the groundwork for our treat bags, as well as a couple other things that people are constantly asking us for. So we're getting all of that set up, but
we got some good
goods. In today's merch store, it's this stuff. Fur Family for the Win training bag. These are the 4 items that you'll be able to check out, and they're only available for 36 hours.
He means 3 items.
Oh, so what did I say? 4?
You said 4. That's okay.
Marnie
The
Griggs.
last one's going to be hugs from Ken.
Hey, I made it. I have to be virtual. Hey, I made it. This is good for me and my lazy pup. Yeah, Marnie, we're going to talk about a little bit about some of the discriminating things you can do, like some of the ways to differentiate the good responses from the great responses so that your dog is more motivated and so that you can more reliably get those really great responses. Christina, did I answer this one already? She says, how do you train them to focus on you?
I think Dan shared it.
Yeah. And this, I think I might have touched on this already, but this is going to be something we talk about during rewarding too. You'd be surprised some of the little tricks that you can do to get more attention from your dog, get them to offer that a little bit more. And we're going to do some demos in just a couple of minutes. Karen says, does this work for housebreaking?
Praise and reward, yeah.
So, but you don't generally need to reward your dog. There doesn't need to be any food that you give your puppy because that the act of going pee or poop or whatever is a naturally rewarding behavior. And and this is funny, we have so many stories, where a student said, I would take them outside.
This literally happened to me with Funky when she was a puppy.
Yeah, so talk about that.
Yeah, so when she was a puppy, she's 12 years old, so that was 12 years ago now. She initially, I had a hard time house training her because I got her in the winter and she didn't want to go outside because it was cold. Finally, we started to make great headway, and I started to reward her when she would go to the bathroom outside, and she's as smart as a whip. So she figured out within a week or so that, if she asked me to go outside, we went outside and she went to the bathroom, she would get treats for that. So the little turkey, she would ask me to go outside, she would go out, and she would even go as far as like assume a squatting position, and then I would like look and be like, she's not even going to the bathroom. And then she'd run right over to me and sit in front and like wait for me to give her a treat. And I thought, you have outsmarted me for a couple days, little lady, but it's not happening anymore.
Right.
So I just switched to simply praise. I didn't use food because she literally was going outside to go to the bathroom just so she could get food, not because she actually had to go to the bathroom. So be aware of that.
I see actually Christina Ramsey said, I pick up my golden puppy next Friday as well.
Aww.
Someone else just mentioned something like
Golden
that.
puppies are so cute.
So Fraser Tosh said, oops, I just lost it there. Fraser from Dundee, Scotland, getting a German Shepherd on Sunday. We have lots of new puppy owners, so this is going to be really important for you guys to really start to
This is the
understand.
channel for you.
For sure, this is where you can start to understand the value between the praise and reward. Do you want to go see what's up out there? I think it's Hippie Shake might need to come in. So in just a second, we're going to start talking about rewarding, and we're going to show you some good ways and some really bad ways to reward. Sometimes we want our dogs to be right so badly that we make some huge mistakes. And it's funny because, what you reward is what you'll ultimately get. And if you don't keep that in mind, or if you get a little bit too lax about how you're rewarding, you're going to end up with a behavior that you absolutely don't want. And the thing that's really important, especially when you're training a puppy to do a new behavior, or maybe you're trying to overcome some sort of dog training challenge in your life, the right reward for the right situation. If you have a dog who struggles with something, that's when you want to bring out the high value stuff, the steak, chicken, all the good stuff. That's when you want to use those value rewards. If you have a dog who gets super crazy, stimulated, excited about in a stationary behavior about being rewarded, then you're going to pull back the value. You're going to lower the currency of reward a little bit. Maybe you can go to kibble. Maybe you can go to something that doesn't get them like over the moon excited. But start to vary the level of the currency of reward, how important it is to them, to the dog situation, and to your dog specifically.
And I think the other thing to remember too is that you want to be aware of what you're rewarding and make sure that you're not giving your dog treats for just whatever. A lot of people just give their dog treats because they're cute, which I would say that I'm guilty for that sometimes as well. But that's usually done
really important
after I have established all of my training and my relationship and that type of thing. But you don't want to give out food for nothing. Or what starts to happen is you start to create a bit of confusion as to what the final goal is for the dog. If, for example, it's to, sit at your side, or to come to you when they're called, or walking on leash is probably the best example that I can use. If you're walking along and your dog is like in poor position, or they are, looking at the ground, and you're saying yes, and you're giving the dog a treat. Or I see it all the time where people take their leash and then they sort of pull the dog into a sitting position, and then they say yes and they feed. Yeah. And they continue to do that, and like weeks go by and they say, well, my dog's not really sitting on command. Well, and it's often because the dog's never really had to do anything on their own in order to earn a reward. They're either being pulled into position with the leash, or they've been hearing this wonderful word yes and been giving treats as they've been 2 feet in front of you and sniffing the floor at the same time. So you really want to pay attention to what you're rewarding. So number one, don't reward things that you don't like. And number two, try not to reward your dog in times where they're not doing anything worth the reward. Right. There's many times where I'll be teaching and I'll have to actually ask a student, what exactly were you rewarding for? Yeah. And they'll say, I don't really know, actually. People just sort of give the food. I thought, oh my God, I would love to come back as your dog.
And as you think about your training at home, can you think of a time that you aren't really sure what you're rewarding for? You just sort of felt the need to give your dog some food. This is where the confusion can come in. This is where, your dog starts to really wonder, well, if I'm getting fed for, walking on a tight leash, what's the point of putting in any effort to walk on a loose leash?
Yeah, and that comes back to the sit too. If you always pull your dog into position and then you feed them, why would they ever do it themselves? If I literally had to do no work all day and then somebody said, well, I'll still give you a paycheck at the end of the day, I kind of like to work, so maybe that wouldn't work for me. But for most people, if you had to do nothing and you still got the payment, why would you work any harder if you still get it? You still get it at the end. You just reminded me of something else that you said, just jumping very quickly back to praise, and that is a lot of people praise things that they don't really necessarily want to praise. Either a really common thing is when dogs are barking or whining, and people will say, quiet,
this is a really important one for you guys. For you guys who have a dog who loves to bark, and this is really important.
People will praise and they'll sort of soothe the dog and they'll pet the dog. Quiet, shh, it's okay. And your dog is hearing, good dog, keep barking, keep doing all of those types of things. So you want to be careful that you're not, just because you know what you mean.
Right.
You and the dog don't speak the same language. Yeah. Dogs don't understand, if I was speaking to a human, I could say to them, this thing that you did 10 hours ago, I really didn't like that. Dogs live within the moment. They need to know that information right then and there. So it's really important that you're being conscious of your timing, which I feel like we're being a bit of a broken record, but it's that important.
Yeah, we do talk about it a lot because it's so important. And especially if you're training a puppy or a young dog new skills, it is so important. Let's do some demos.
Okay.
Let's do a little bit of show some maybe good rewarding positions, bad rewarding positions, and then we can go back and talk about after the fix.
I can show the calm praise and the excited.
Yeah, that's good. Ananya says, "Hey guys, love your work. I wanted to ask him to get my 4-month Golden to stop eating everything in our yard. We were able to get him to focus on chew toys at home, but outside he goes nuts." So Ananya, I want you to really think about using a long line with your dog and being with him being with him to interrupt those behaviors, to give him information. He doesn't know what you want from him, so he's just going to do whatever feels good or tastes good. So be there to give him great information and to avoid that kind of thing. I might have to grab a battery for this camera, but you know what I haven't done? I haven't tooted all live stream. Now's my opportunity to head on over to the train station. And away we go.
Are we good? Yeah. Okay, here, B. So what I wanted to do is just show you a little bit about proper rewards, just to make sure that when your dog understands they're getting a reward, they do understand that it's coming from you. Because I think often what people will do when they feed their dogs is they're not actually paying attention to the behavior. So one of the things that I literally just spoke about is a lot of people will do this. Hold on. They'll do this. Sit. Yes. And then they'll reward. So they'll say sit, and then they'll sit, and they'll pull the dog in a position, or they'll even do this. Sit. Yes, good sit. And they have the leash completely tight. Now, poor Beeline is, number one, getting pulled up on her neck. And number two, she's not really doing anything that's worth a reward. And she doesn't even have a chance to do anything worth a reward because I'm just basically pulling her around. So what would be a much better thing for me to do is to keep my leash loose. Sit. Yes, good girl. It got caught in your ear, though. But hopefully you can see the clip of my leash was pointed towards the floor. Then I could say yes when she sits into position. I could reward, and then I could tell her, good girl, good sit. And I could use praise to help her maintain position. Yes, good sit. Now, earlier I talked about the enthusiasm of the level of enthusiasm in your praise. So if I'm working on a nice calm sit, what I wouldn't want to do is say, yes, good girl, good sit, B, woohoo, good girl. Now, my dog is a total rock star. I cannot believe that she didn't get up from that sit. You're so smart when I did that. But most dogs would just spring out of position. So if she's sitting calmly, I would rather on this type of exercise reward her and praise her like this. Good girl, good sit, yes, good. Good sit, good girl, yay. So calm voice, calm praise and touch to help her hold position. Okay, babe. So that's something to think about as well. The other thing that you want to think about as well is when you reward your dog, where are they looking? Do you want me to back up?
Yeah.
Where are they looking? So a lot of the times when we're rewarding things, a lot of people will go like this, yes, and they'll feed the dog turning away from them, feeding this way. And again, this doesn't really teach her to have good focus on me when we're training together. When I'm rewarding her, do you see how she's automatically looking up in my direction? That's because when I feed her, I usually feed her like this. So you see how I'm delivering my treat and I'm doing it in a way that she still has to focus up towards me? Yes, good girl. And I will replicate this on all kinds of exercises. I'll replicate it when I'm doing response to name, when I'm practicing my recall, when I'm doing let's go walking, any of that. So if we're walking by my side, or I'm teaching her to walk at my side here, again, I would hold her head or I would reward her, good girl, with her head slightly turned in towards me so that when the food goes away, I still have a dog that walks nice and close to me. Good girl. Okay, get in. Get in. Get in. Good girl. You are very excited about these treats right now. Or if I'm teaching response to name, if she turns towards me, I don't want to just lower my hand and give her all the food. I want to keep her attention in between her and I. Yes, good girl. And a lot of that has to do with my hand placement, where I'm actually delivering the food from. Good girl. And then the last thing too is, again, just thinking about the praise versus the reward. If I do something, I ask her to do something and it's pretty good, then I might say, good girl, good try. And I would still sound positive and I would sound pleased. But if she does something really excellent, I'm going to throw that yes command in there and I'm going to have a lot of exuberant praise afterwards. So she can really tell the difference between what I like, what I love, and what I'm like absolutely mind blown. I can't believe you just did that type of thing. She can tell the difference based on my reaction to her. And the dogs are smart. They absolutely understand the difference between you and disappointment or you and your, how excited you are about the exercise.
What do you think about talking a little bit about the fix? So something people often do is fix then feed.
Yes, sure. So, for example, if the dog does something that you don't want them to, and you need to fix them at some point. So I could maybe use the down, for example, because we've already talked about sit. So if I was working on my down or my down, good girl, my down stay, whatever it might be, or maybe I could use a sit. If I asked her to sit and she didn't respond, what I could do is I could ask her to sit and I could use the leash to help her into position. So I would say sit again and I could just lift up on the leash, good girl. But what a lot of people do then is they say yes and then they feed and the dog goes, okay. I lie down there and I wait for you to lift me up with the leash and then you feed me. So if that was the case, lie down for a second. If I had to say sit and she didn't respond and I had to say sit, use the leash, what I would do is praise her. Yes, that's much better. Good girl. I could praise and touch her, but I wouldn't necessarily reward her. Lie down. But if I was to do this, sit. Yes, good girl. And she did it without any assistance. Did you hear the exuberation in my yes? Yeah, good girl. And I get reward several times. Good girl. Because I didn't need to use my leash or any assistance. And that's going to be clear for her. Okay, if I do it on a verbal and I listen well, I'm going to get rewarded. But if I'm being assisted into position, I need to try a little bit harder. And again, I'm never angry and upset and speak poorly to my dog. I just need to show her what I love and what I don't love based on my reaction. But again, I don't want to say, hey, sit and, get on her from there. That's not very nice of me to do. And I don't want my dog to learn to listen to me when I sound, mean. So you're just going to be calm, assertive, follow through when needed, praise if you need to do those things. And if your dog's listening right off the get-go, you're going to praise and then also reward those situations as well. Mm-hmm. Good?
Yeah, unless there's anything you wanted to talk about.
I think that's good.
Talking about differentiating between rewards and stuff. You covered that pretty
well. Did it? Yep. Okay, B.
Let's head back over to the seated part of the train station. See what you guys are asking. Now's the time to ask your questions in the chat. If you have anything that you'd like to know about your puppy or your young dog. Christina, actually, I'm going to come back to that, Christina. I see a bit of an off-topic question about picking up a puppy late. We'll definitely come back to that. Kelly Ann Perry says, how did you guys do this method with Hippie Shake? She's so tiny. Just bend over more. What about the pause between the yes marker and the treat?
So the timing didn't change with the smaller dog. She still got the same timing for her yes and her praise. Lie down. Depending on what I was doing, though, I certainly did absolutely. I had to bend more when I was rewarding her. But I just tried to be conscious that I would stand up between my repetitions so that she was learning to see me in that position, because I'm not going to be interacting with her for her entire life bent over top of her. She needs to get used to me standing up like a normal person, like I normally would. So I would simply bend to reward or bend to fix her, and then I would stand up and praise, bend to reward, stand up and praise. So she just got used to that view. In the beginning, I would say it was a little bit more challenging because of her size, but once some of the skills started to develop, then it was totally fine. Everything was the same.
Yeah. Lisa R says, how do you get the dog to not jump behind me when I walk? Now, this is, there's a lot of answers to this single sentence question, but maybe we can show really quickly about using your praise, like bringing a dog back in position, praising, then rewarding, like once you get some commitment to that position in the
Yeah, I can't show it with B though, because she won't leave my side. I'll have to show it with you.
Okay, yeah.
Or you can show it with me.
Also, gives me a chance to toot. I was ready. Oh, okay. Let's head on over to the train station. Yeah, and this is something that, sometimes people struggle a little bit with getting some commitment from their dog. And we always talk about when you're using those rewards, you're rewarding their choice, the choice that they've made. And this will allow you to you'll find that your dog starts to choose those better choices more often because you've really showed them, what your expectation is. And that's what we're going to show right now.
So if we're walking along and my dog's, going to jump behind me, like maybe what you just said your dog was doing, or whatever it might be.
I hope your dog looks more coordinated than I do.
I'm going to redirect him into the placement that I want him with the left hand on my leash, just, which way I need to do it, depending on what he does. But when he gets back to my side, before I lose his attention for him to go and get distracted again, I need to praise him a little bit so that he sort of says, oh, okay, you didn't like that, but you do like this. And if after a few moments goes by, and by moments I literally mean seconds, and he's still sort of engaged with me and he's moving closely, are you laughing at yourself in the thing?
Yeah, I just saw the replay.
Then I can reward at that point. So I'm going to show you the correct way right now, and then I'm going to show you common mistakes.
I wonder if we go back and forth. Would that be easy for them
let's
to see?
Just pretend we're going forward, but let's not actually go forward.
Okay.
Are you ready? We're going to do some acting.
I think so. Acting.
Okay.
Acting!
Okay, so I could have food in my hand, but it's easiest actually if you don't have food in your hand, because then you can grab the leash. So my leash is gathered up, it's attached to my dog's collar. We're walking, everything's going great. He's too far behind me right now. So if he goes too far away from me or behind, I'm going to slide my left hand down the leash and I'm going to pulse back to my side. Once he's there, yay, good boy, that's the way. Now, he's not really looking at me, he's just beside me. So if I'm walking, down the street and he's sort of with me, but he's just looking for the next thing, I would not feed my dog for that. I would, hey, hi, good boy, yes. I would get his attention, and then once I got eye contact, I would then yes and reward.
Yeah.
So first you're redirecting the dog. The second thing you're doing is praising what's worthy of being praised. That's right.
Yep.
And then the last thing would be, after a few moments of the dog doing the correct behavior goes by, then you could reward, because what you don't want to do is, redirect your dog, yes, and then feed right away, because in Ken's mind, being a dog that learns within 1 second, he's going to think that the food is for the fact that I pulled him back. And he might say, okay, well, if that's what you want me to do, I'll move away again so that you can pull me back and give me a treat. So I need to differentiate between what I like and what I don't like. So if he's doing a lot of pulling and he moves away from me and I get him back proper position, good boy, that's a man. Yay, good for you. He's doing a good job for a few seconds. Then I can yes and then reward, so that he goes, I get what you're rewarding me for. It's for being on a loose leash. It's for looking at you. It's for being in this specific position. Whatever is happening during the moment of me saying the word yes, that is what my dog is going to understand that he needs to replicate.
Yeah, and we don't insist when we're teaching a dog to walk on a loose leash, the dog doesn't need to be heeling. They don't need to be head staring up at you the entire time. But you do need to get, the last thing you want is a dog who's just sort of hovering around. Maybe they're not pulling on the leash, but they're not really checking in with you. And this is where the rewarding, using your praise to bridge between those rewards, using your reward, you can really start to shape that behavior. I think it might have been Christina asked earlier about how do you reward to get more focus on you, or
Yeah.
how do you use reward to get more focus?
Yeah.
Walking on leash as an example, let's show that.
So hopefully you can see this. So if I was walking my dog, a common thing that people do when they feed is they hold food in their hand like so. Maybe we should go a little bit closer. There we go. They hold the food in the hand like so, and they actually feed their dog with their hand out like this. And what a lot of dogs will end up doing is walking behind, or they go a little bit more crooked. Go more crooked though. Like, yes, there you go. That's what they do. Ken's not a very good dog right now, guys. All right, because in order to get the food on my hand, that's what he has to do. So the absolute best way to reward your dog on walking is actually flip your hand around so your knuckles are forward and your palm is back. That way I can yes and feed him at my side. And the other thing that, because my hand's like this, my dog happens to be taller than me, so maybe this isn't the greatest example, but my dog has to actually look up in my direction. So I wouldn't yes and reward him over here.
Yeah.
I would keep his nose tilted in towards me, and I could reward him in this position. And that's going to start to shape the behavior that I want my dog to walk in. And like Ken said, we don't expect that they look at you the entire time. If you're going for a nice walk, around the block, the dog's not going to walk with like a crick in their neck,
right.
looking up all the time. But what we want your dog to do is acknowledge. Every single time I use my leash to redirect my dog for something, I always expect acknowledgement, and acknowledgement is looking. So he doesn't have to stare. He just has to say, sorry, Mom, I'm with you, and then I can let him relax again.
Something that's you're going to start to see is when you are very focused on your reward and your position as your reward, the dog's going to naturally want to be checking in with you. Something that people often do when they're sitting with their dog on a walk for some reason is they want to feed on the outside.
Yeah.
They reach over the dog's head to feed. Now think about what we've just talked about. Kayl talked moments ago about how you want, with your puppy, you're going to reward them for coming in close, or reward them for facing you directly. But if you start to reward them on the outside, that goes for walking as well. Then all of the value, if you're here and all of the value is away. Okay, this is a much better demonstration.
Yeah. So see how I have my hand out like this? See how far away from me and how she's turned to the side there in order to get the food? So I have my hand like this, or some people, what they like to do is they like to feed like that. So they say, let's go, and then the dog's out this way. So if I just turn my hand over, see how what I can do is get her in a little bit closer to me, and I can also turn her nose in. So if we're walking along, what I don't want to do is say yes and reward her head out and away. What I want to do is hold her head a little bit in towards when I feed. So she's more likely to offer that behavior as we're walking along. Yes, that's a good girl. Okay, and I try to be picky about my dog's position. So
I think that's important to talk about.
When you're being black and white, if I sometimes feed there, sometimes feed this, sometimes I feed that, sometimes I feed this, it sort of is like, it's hard for the dog to understand because you've given them sort of 5 or 6 options. If I'm rewarding the same thing every single time, it becomes much easier for my dog to understand what I'm asking her for. And if you know anything about shaping a dog's behavior versus luring, shaping a dog's behavior to do, capturing behaviors, that really teaches you about the importance of the timing of the word yes and being very specific with when you say it, because I think that the dogs are much smarter than we give them credit for, and they can learn bad things just as fast as they can learn good things if your timing's a little bit off.
Can you talk about jackpot rewarding as these puppy owners and as the dog owners are getting more advanced? Talk just a little bit about jackpot rewarding to change things up a little bit.
So again, a little bit more about rewarding. We do something called jackpot. Ooh, you got a freebie there, miss. It's behind you. We do something called jackpot rewarding, which means if our dog does something that we really love, we would give multiple rewards. And one of the most common places that we'll use it in the very early training is if our dog responds to any commands and hand signals very quickly. And also this leads into getting your dog to start to learn to do things without any food in your hand. So actually this week in our classes, it's about, a couple weeks into the program, we're starting to focus on teaching the dogs to lie down without needing to have any food in our hands. Oh, Beeline, you're such a good listener. So, for example, I have several pieces of food and some pocket lint. How about that? In this hand. And I'm just going to have Bee just sort of sit here. And I'm going to ask her to lie down. But I'm going to ask her to do that without having any food in my hand. If she does it, I'm going to say yes, and then I'm going to reward her, but I'm going to get the food out, and I'm going to do a jackpot reward. So she learns if she responds without food, she may get lots of rewards in return as her reward. So there's a difference between luring and rewarding. If I lure, I have the food in my hand already. She knows that it's there. I'm saying down, And she's basically saying, no problem, my mom, I got that because the food's there. What I need to be able to do is get to the point where I have no food in my hand, be able to say down, yes, good girl, and still have the dog respond. Now that was great. So I said yes, and now I'm going to take these treats in this hand, and I'm going to jackpot reward her. Yes, good girl. Jackpot reward. Yes, good girl. Now there's one really important piece of jackpot rewarding, and that is if you have multiple pieces of food that you intend to jackpot reward your dog with, you do not give them all of the treats at the same time. What you want to do is draw out the moment and give them one piece of food at a time, but at a very quick rate. Just like getting a jackpot, that just one thing comes out of the slot, crazy one after another, and it's really exciting. So same thing with the dog. If I say down, yes, I'm going to yes, feed, yes, feed. Yes, feed, yes, feed, yes, feed. And I'm going to keep feeding to make it really exciting for her. I'm not just going to hand her it all at the same time because it doesn't have the same effect on the dog. She's going to feel a lot more rewarded. Okay, good girl. If she gets that reward in the jackpot manner. Good girl.
Awesome.
Good.
Kayl McCann. Dropping knowledge.
Okay.
We didn't even plan that one, but I thought that would be a good opportunity to hear something really cool in the train station. Now, jackpot rewarding is super valuable for anybody that's looking to do dog sports or wants to level up their training a little bit with their dog. Then jackpot rewarding is
jackpot rewarding is something we use
really
in our
really
agility
valuable
training
thing.
all
Absolutely.
the time.
Let's jump into the chat. Let us know if you have a question about your training, your puppy training, dog training. Then now is a great time to ask. Let's see what we got here. So, Magic 99MQ, picking up a new German Shepherd pup next week. What's the best way to introduce the pup to my 4-year-old Shepherd, my other German Shepherd? This is something we talk about a lot. Do you want to go into it?
We actually have a really great video about integrating a new dog into other dogs.
Yeah, I'll see if I can grab it. Talking.
But the best thing to do is to do it in a controlled way and to first establish a really good relationship with the puppy before allowing it to spend a lot of time with the other animals in the house. Dogs bond to other dogs really, really quickly. And unfortunately, we see some dogs bond to the other puppies so quickly that they don't really care too much about the humans in the house because they sort of learn that the other dogs and animals in the house are more fun. So when we get a new puppy, we do a lot of isolation. So we keep the puppy separate from all of our other dogs, and it's absolutely more work for us for sure. But we end up building a really, really strong bond with the puppy, the both of us do. And, the puppy sees the other dogs and they learn to listen, and we work, use the other dogs as distractions and whatnot, but they don't get a lot of free range and a lot of free playtime until the puppy has skills like response to name. They sort of know how to go and lie down and wait. They have a bit of a recall, like all of those types of things, so that as our puppies are around the other dogs, we can control them. Now, being professional dog trainers, this doesn't take us very long. By the time our dogs are 6 months, we can put them together. But if you're a brand new person that hasn't trained a lot of dogs before, it might take a little longer, and that's okay. You just have to be patient at it. But just take it slow and make sure that the puppy isn't developing any bad habits from the older dogs as well.
For sure. I love this question from Joe Vincent. Should one spouse train versus both to ensure consistency?
It's a good question. Not necessarily. If you're training at home, we would definitely suggest that everybody takes part in the training, provided that everybody's doing it in a consistent way. It can be a little confusing for dogs if they're getting, one type of information from one person and then something totally different from somebody else. It slows down their learning process as well. When we have classes, however, because we are teaching the people, we don't really train your dog. We train you to train your dog. We want the same person to do it all the time for consistency reasons. But if you're at home and you're not really being instructed by somebody, then everybody should be involved. But you definitely will notice that one person over the other will make a stronger connection and earn a bit more respect from the dog a little quicker. And it's not always the males, everybody. Sometimes the males are the husbands in the house are the softies. Yeah, and the women in the house are the ones that are on a kick butt and take charge.
That is so true.
it totally just depends. And so if there is one person that is sort of, taking on a more leadership role and the dog's taking to them well, then yeah, let them do a lot of the training, and then the people who are having more trouble can maybe do easier stuff. But it is a great thing to have everybody involved. I would say B, or I guess Rad too, but B was the first dog that Ken and I got that's like literally both of our dogs. Most of the other dogs that we have are either my dog or his dog. So they always had a bit of a stronger connection with one of us over the other.
Yeah.
Beeline is not that, or the one that you just saw. She definitely was raised by both of us. We both took her to classes. We both did training with her. And so she sort of believes that she belongs to the both of us. She listens to us the equal amount because we've done the equal amount of training. So
yeah, I wanted to toss this question up there really quickly from Mia Smith, and this is referring back to the puppy video.
Yeah.
How many weeks should they be separated for? And I want you guys to really don't think so much.
It's not about weeks.
Yeah, it's not about weeks in this situation like this. It's all about
dog behavior.
Exactly. Yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not about weeks. It's about dog behavior. So, and I don't want to say weeks because I could say 6 months, and you might not be ready at the end of 6 months to put them together. It really depends on what are you doing with the dog during that time frame. How well is the bonding going? How well is the training going?
Right.
What kind of dog is it? If you have, a herdy breed like our dogs, our border collies, they're really attracted to movement and they want to chase other dogs, and like that's really in their core. So sometimes you got to wait longer with those types of dogs. If you have a dog that's not that interested in other dogs, naturally you might be able to do it a little bit faster. So we absolutely can't put a number on it. You'll know though, based on the interaction and the connection that you have with your puppy, or when you get them around other dogs, do they just take off and like they don't really give two hoots about you? Probably tells you you're not quite ready yet.
Right.
But if they're like, what we do with our puppies is we let them out, we'll put a long line on them, we'll take them for a walk with some of our less exciting dogs because it's a little bit easier for them to be successful.
Yep.
And the puppy will do things like they'll go after the other dogs and then they'll stop and they'll turn around and look at us, or they'll like run back, and that sort of says to us, okay, like they're still wanting to choose us over the situation, and that helps us to know whether we're on the right track or not.
Absolutely. Hello to Alwyn N from Australia. Thanks for joining us here.
Nice.
In the train station. Just looking for a reason to toot. All four paws. I have a 3-year-old golden retriever that loves to carry and chew on big rocks and is breaking his teeth. We tried having him on lead every time he goes out, but as soon as we let him off, and then I think the follow-up was he gets into trouble again. We talked a little bit, was it last week or a couple of weeks ago, about when you're teaching your dog to listen. Leave it's really helpful for sure. I don't know if Dan has a chance to pop that in the chat. But when you're teaching these kinds of things, you can't just take the line off and hope for the best. You need to use something like a long line and just allow your dog to drag it. That doesn't mean you're at the end of the leash or the line just waiting for something to happen, but you're very aware of what's happening. You also have complete control should your dog do something that you don't like. That's really, really important. And so for example, we talk about taking a long line and then shortening it. Maybe you take 10 feet off of it and then another 5 or whatever. But simply just taking the training wheels off all of a sudden can really lead to problems, because we have an expectation that our dog's going to make good choices, but they don't have enough information to know what those choices are yet. Yeah. They've never had the opportunity to feel off leash and to go to that corner of the yard or whatever the thing is. So you really need to help them by being there to give them the information.
Yeah, dogs are really leash wise, so they absolutely know when they're on leash. They absolutely know when they're off leash. And if you're making that an obvious change for them, a lot of dogs will just go back to exactly what they were doing when they were off leash. You also need to make sure that you're complementing that by, while you're working with your dog on leash, that you're training them exercises that are going to allow you to control them in a situation where they are maybe going to make a poor choice, like picking up rocks or whatnot. So, how good is your response to name? How good is your leave it? How well does your dog sit on command at a distance? Or, how well do they look at you when you ask them to? So if those skills are strong, when you're around those distractions and your dog is able to respond, then you might be ready to feel comfortable trying those skills with the leash dragging, and then maybe eventually work to having the leash off. But the problem with taking a leash off and then testing your skills when you don't really know if you're ready is, once the leash is off and your dog decides they're not going to listen, you're done. So you have to be making sure it's not just keep them on leash and after a amount of time it's magically going to fix itself. You have some training to do in the process.
Yeah. Julia Coutinho asks, my 3-month-old GS loves running. What are some exercises I can do with her to get her tired without having her run? Any tips for biting? But I've been using your method, but it doesn't work all the time. So, Julie, it's really important that you're consistent. So that method will work for just about any dog. I guess I need to know how old did you say? 3 months? Yeah, those methods will work for your dog, but you have to be consistent about it. And everybody in your home needs to be consistent about it. If it doesn't fix it in this training session, you follow the same steps in the next training session and really to show your dog some consistency. Some dogs take a little bit longer than others, are a little bit more, insistent that they get their way or that they do whatever. So follow through and be consistent. Now, I like the question about some exercises.
Yeah, can I answer that?
Yeah.
So with the running, with a dog that's young, you certainly don't want to be doing excess running with them, but you can do some. And as long as you do them in short spurts and in straight lines, it won't be too impactful on the dog's body. We love to do things like play restraint recalls where one person holds the puppy, the other person stands like 10 to 15 feet in front. We tease them with a tug toy or some treats, and then we take off and run, and we have them chase us, and then we reward them when they catch us, and we start to implement things like their name or a recall command as we're practicing that game, and it really tires them out. Other than that, though, the next best thing, if you don't want to do running, would be to tire the dog out mentally. And the best way to do that is by having them learn something.
Right.
Make them use their brain, make them problem solve, do little games with them, teach them tricks. We have a boatload of trick tutorials on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's
literally would keep you busy for like an entire couple weeks, maybe a month. That's a really good thing to do as well. Now that, is not going to keep your dog physically healthy, but it's certainly going to take that edge off a little bit and keep them more mentally sound.
Yeah. Let us know. I hope that helps, gives you a little bit of direction. Juanita Velez says, my Samoyed is starting to show some resource guarding against other dogs, including her brother, with food and when I pet other dogs in the park. How should I correct her? Thanks. What do you think? What do you think is the safest way to approach that one? My Samoyed is starting to show some resource guarding, so that's one thing that we can talk about a little bit. With other dogs, including your brother, with food, and when I pet other dogs in the park. So right now, avoid any situation that creates that sort of energy, that sort of intensity from your dog. If they feel like there's competition, and for example, 2 dogs fed in a kitchen, maybe totally fine. You introduce a new dog in the mix, or you move those bowls closer, and all of a sudden somebody has a problem. So avoid that situation for now as you're working through some of this.
Don't put your dog in situations where it would be easy for them to make a poor choice because, any type of repetition of a behavior, whether it's good or bad, it solidifies that behavior. So even though, might not be getting success, if the dog is repeating something incorrect over and over and over again, that will become the way that the dog does it. So repetition and controlling what they repeat is really, really important. The other thing that you want to make sure that you do is have a safe way to redirect your dog. Now, this is something that could turn into something, pretty serious. So, you may consider getting some advice from a professional behaviorist. Right. I certainly wouldn't want to give you specific correction suggestions over the internet like this without seeing the behavior myself.
There's so much. My own 2 eyes. There's so much that can go into that, anticipating, all of the whatever the trigger is for your dog. So it's hard for us to answer this in a very
lots of right and wrong ways, and
format.
I don't want to redirect you. So for now, the easiest thing to do would be to say to control the environment and to not allow this behavior to continue progressing. And in the meantime, you need to look into some training methods that you feel comfortable with on how to redirect the dog more effectively.
So I really like this question from Melinda Miller. My dog passed her AKC Canine Good Citizen test yesterday.
Cool.
Was scary to be naked without treats. I'm glad you clarified that. But she was responsive. Still good to reward randomly for hard things, even though she has learned them?
Yes. You got to keep putting gas in the tank. So you can't just wean off of treats and never use them again. The dog's eventually going to be like, hey, pay off here. This isn't very good. But you can just start to use them randomly. We don't really use a ton of treats with our dogs anymore, but ever so often I'll take them on my walks with me, or I'll train something and I'll use food. And, I just do that on the regular so that it keeps the dogs interested and engaged. What you don't want to do is like ask the dog to do something, the dog doesn't listen, and then go, okay, fine, and then pull the food out in order to get them to pay attention. That's not what we're suggesting. You just want to use the food more irregularly and but don't lean off of it completely.
Yeah, I think it's important that you do recognize occasionally that your dog's made a good choice. So for example, we'll go for walks with the dogs, and occasionally we'll just call them in, just call their names and watch them run to us, and then we'll randomly reward them. Maybe we have treats this walk, or maybe we reward every third time, or whatever. It keeps it interesting for your dog. Another thing you can do is use a tug toy, or use some sort of engaging, interactive toy. That's a great way to unlock a little bit of motivation from a dog who is doing a great job, and it just isn't that you're trying to move beyond some of the always rewarding with food. Couple good questions here. Alwyn N says, my dog jumps on people when they come to the door, but he doesn't do it to me. I walk past, ignore, give him a pat, scratch, tummy rub when he's calm. Which method should I use at the door? Treats? We actually have a very specific, I think Dan the man, the moderator man, just moderating like crazy in here, dropped a link.
Thank you, Dan.
Yes, thank you, Dan. I think that video will probably be the one. We talked specifically about that situation where you're going to have a line on your dog and you're going to be you're going to set yourself up. But something that, if you haven't seen that video and you're watching the live stream, nowadays we have it so easy. We can ask our friends or our family members to, when you have a puppy, to text ahead. Let me know when you're pulling in the driveway so that I can set up and prepare for some puppy training. So take advantage of that. We're so connected with one another now that you have it seemingly endless amounts of opportunities to train through some of these behaviors.
Yeah.
Jacqueline Nelson. I just got a gentle leader for my 6-month-old lab. She pulled so hard she tore tendons in my shoulder and arm. Can I teach her loose leash with the gentle leader on, or only a leather leash? So I can't imagine, Jacqueline, unless the dog was maybe pulling away somehow, that you tore the tendons with the gentle leader on.
I don't think that's what she's asking.
No? Okay. Can I teach her loose leash with the gentle leader on, or only a leather leash? Yeah, absolutely. You can teach her with a gentle leader on. It's actually something.
It's a great idea.
Sometimes we get students into our training facility that are, not very big, and they have a big, powerful, strong dog. Sometimes the gentle leader is a great tool for them because it doesn't allow their dog to pull anymore. It redirects some of that energy and pressure. So we always suggest a gentle leader in a situation like that. So if you you have some issues with your arms, or there's some reason why you aren't as mobile, if that's your case at home,
we would really suggest this tool. It's a good one. Yeah. And I know we keep saying this, but we have a couple of videos on the YouTube channel specifically about how to properly fit a gentle leader and how to use it effectively, because it can be a bit confusing if you've never used one before. But once you sort of get used to it, it's like, we call them magic dogs in a box, because you put it on and the dogs usually are really, really wonderful. But there is a little bit of a period where you need to get the dog more comfortable with it.
I noticed, I think Andrea P. Okay, Dan the man, he's all over it. So I'm going to answer Max's question. And then it's time. We are about to do a head-to-head competition where the loser has to eat a bunch of dog treats. Where you have to test out some dog food to see what it tastes like.
Dog food.
So I just wanted to bring up Max's question. I'm curious about how you got into being a dog trainer. Was there a special course your trainership you had to do?
That's a good question.
Yeah, for sure. So Max Kayl, her mom and dad started McCann Professional Dog Trainers
when I was a baby
many years ago. Her dad had some issues with his heart, and his mom, her mom decided that her mom and dad decided that they wanted to do something different, and they loved dog training. They
quit their jobs, they had a kid, and they started a business.
Right, yeah, and it's become a business that's helped more than 90,000 dogs. We're training more than 500 dogs a week. I mean, it is a humongous dog training business. So I found it by my vet told me that I had to take my dog. I had this unruly black lab, and he said you have to go to McCann Dogs. You have to go get some training for this dog. So
she was wild.
She was wild, and still is sometimes. She's a lot of fun. So I went to McCann Professional Dog Trainers. I fell in love with dog training. The process, seeing her evolve, seeing how much of a change you could get. And she was 2. She was a 2-year-old dog at that point, and I just loved the process. So I was there so much. I was always on my time off, in between classes. I was there training, and one of the instructors asked me if I wanted to do my apprenticeship. I said absolutely 100% yes. So it was a year-long apprenticeship where we worked through training a bunch of different dogs through various levels of progressions, and then I started. Actually, Kayl was the instructor trainer. She was the chief instructor.
I was the chief.
Watching over everybody.
Yeah, all of the instructors that train for our school are all handpicked from our classes because we want them to know the McCann method of dog training through and through. And then we put them through a pretty intensive, elaborate apprenticeship program where we teach everything between dog behavior and whatnot. But a lot of it is about people training. You got to have dog training knowledge, but you also need to be able to deal with people since that's sort of the hardest and probably the best part of our job. The dogs are great, don't get me wrong, but the people
dogs are easy though.
Yeah, dogs are piece of cake.
Dogs are no problem.
But yeah, there's lots of different ways you can do it. But as far as our school is concerned, that's the process that we use, that we know everybody has the same training and we're in control of the type of education they've gotten with their dogs.
How many of you think that Kayla's stalling? Because we're about to go head to head in the treat challenge. We've been waiting. I've been so excited about this. So tonight's competition is actually a treat toss challenge. You're going to see Kayl and I going head to head over 60 seconds. Who can get the most treats into our special mugs? Actually, we can show off our special mugs. But and right into your living room. So we're going to have to maybe get that.
Shout out to our instructor, Kim McClure, for these mugs.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Kim, for these amazing mugs.
Ken and I just got married, so we have all kinds of things that say hubby and wife on them.
It's time. It's game time.
It's now time.
So how do we, I'm going to need your chair maybe.
Why don't we use this?
Yeah, but it's got to be up higher. So.
Oh. This is going to be harder.
Yeah. I know. That's the fun of it. Look at it. Okay, right. These treats are coming right into your living room.
This is too high, I think.
No such thing. See, do you guys feel like Kayl's making excuses? Because it's about to get real.
You need to shut it.
I'm going to get absolutely...
And I just use better language since we're on live stream.
I'm going to get annihilated here, I suspect.
I want to be able to see the words.
The name of the game is 60-second treat tossing. The loser has to eat all of the treats in the other
Not
person's
all of
mug.
them. We're going to get way more in than last week.
Oh, are we? Okay, can you just get those out? I've got to get the timer.
Yes, Ken, I will help you.
Oops.
Lose. Okay.
Hey, are you rigging?
People, we need some excitement here. Here is a handful. What is that for?
Just going to turn on the timer so these guys can see. Okay. What do you think?
Get ready to go
Jacqueline
down.
Nelson says it's on like Donkey Kong. Absolutely.
Okay.
And the timer. So I don't really know.
Where are we throwing from?
I don't know how I'm going to know. Actually, maybe I can see
it. Put it right here.
So if I set it for like 110, can we see it in the replay or the
Why
reflection?
Can't you just put it right here?
Because then these guys can't see.
Oh, I see. Now you're covering our adorable mugs.
Okay. Is that okay?
Okay, it's okay. They all know what it says. Kayl for the win. Yes, Patricia. Love you.
I don't know, Patricia. Okay, I'm going to set it for...
I don't know if I have enough stock here, guys, because I think I'm going to need more.
I can't see the time. Okay, we're just going to turn it this way. We'll have to tell you...
Do you have enough in there?
I think so. Now, I don't know. Is this a good distance? I'd say, how far are we away from this thing?
I don't know.
Okay.
Wait. Don't knock me over, though.
Okay, no, I won't.
No, don't knock my arm. Knock me over.
So there's 1 minute, 6 seconds. So there will be a 6-second countdown to this thing, and then it's game time. The loser eats the other treats. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Game on. Oh, no. Not a good start. Oh, this isn't going well. Oh, we both got one. Oh, no. Kayl got 2. Oh. Oh, no.
Fuck. Oh.
Oh,
sorry.
Oh, no. I'm not doing well. I think one went in. I think a couple went in.
You're throwing more than one.
Yes, that was part of my strategy. Okay, there's 37 seconds left. I'm going to have to get a refill in just a moment. Oh, no. Hit the rim. 30 seconds left. 29. Are you leaning? Now you've got the flow now.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
You should see me play cornhole. Or
okay, you're off.
Oh, shoot.
She's off.
Oh! Jinx me.
We're going to have to get
This
Funky
is what
Monkey.
happened last
17
time.
seconds left. 16 seconds left. We're going to have to get Funky Monkey to clean this place up. There's treats everywhere. It is pandemonium. What's your language?
I'm almost out of food.
Oh, no.
It's
It's
done?
a couple seconds left. I think so. We're going to have to go to a countdown. It's time. It is time. Hold your horses. I don't like the looks of this. This does not look good for me.
Oh,
Okay.
I think I might have won.
Okay. There's treats. There's treats everywhere. There are treats all over the ground.
Okay, count them
This does
up.
not look good. Okay. Okay. Oh, wow. You have a lot of treats in there. Okay, let's get back.
Oh, I love that you're going to have to eat treats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wait, I might have counted wrong. I don't want to miss them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, I'm good. 10, 11,
3,
12, 13,
4,
14, 15,
5,
16, 17,
6, 7,
18, 19,
8,
20, 21,
9,
22,
10.
23,
Oh, this is not good. Oh, no, I
24,
lost count.
25.
What was I at? Darn.
26, 27,
1, 2, 3,
28, 29.
4,
And I even did count.
5,
some of mine broke in half, and I
6,
didn't even count them.
7,
29.
This is too high.
Little bones in my cup.
9,
The
10,
foot violation on Kale.
11,
Come on.
12,
I'm just going to pile these up
13,
since you're going to have to eat them in a second.
14, 15, 16, 17, 18 and a half. No!
Yes!
No!
Now, you have to eat my pile, my love.
Oh, no.
Okay, wait.
I'm gonna go for the shaming.
We got to get you. We got to make sure the crowd sees this is the best
Wait,
part.
there's one on there.
Oh, wow, you're really... Okay.
Well, you know what?
Sit down, sweetie, so everyone can see you.
You got to pay the price.
Hold on.
It's high stakes here.
Wait, where's my phone? Where's my phone? Did you hide it?
I'm not sure.
I want to get this on video. Hold
So
on.
that was pretty, that was quite a defeat I took.
Oh, my heart is racing, guys.
Look at these things. It's not like, actually, they don't smell bad.
I ate them last week and they weren't really that
Yeah,
bad.
it's,
I didn't want to have to do it again though. We just did a
28
challenge.
I have 28 treats to eat.
He's gonna eat 28 pieces of dog treats.
I thought you said they weren't bad.
No,
They're
I
not
thought they were
good.
okay.
No, they're horrible.
Oh, your face is fantastic right now.
Well, this is sort of.
You got. Oh, look how many you have to eat.
I know.
Oh my god! Ew! I can hear him crunching them.
I have to. I have to figure out a way.
Get some milk. They're
Josh
saying.
Rutland, yeah. I should have. Wow.
You even try to throw in multiple ones at a time. You try to throw like 4 or 5 in at a time.
I know.
You big cheater.
I thought that's how I would get an advantage. I apologize for
Kale wins again.
talking with my mouth full. Oh, they're so dry.
Oh, do
And
you want
awful.
some? Here, you want some water?
No, I've got some. It's not helping.
The winner of the treat competition, Wifey.
Oh, boy.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, as Ken continues to try to eat the rest of those treats, do you still have those to eat too?
Yeah.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I am very grateful that I have good aim. So hopefully you guys learned some stuff today about the use of praise versus reward. We got real deep into it today. I think that was good. You guys had some fabulous questions for us. We do a live stream every single Thursday at 7:30 for you guys. We have a different topic every week, but we always give you a chance to jump on the live stream and ask us questions so that we can give you some answers. You'll still be able to ask questions after this live is over. It will be available for 24 hours for you guys to go ahead and watch. And you guys have some fantastic comments in the chat right now.
Don't forget, we have that pop-up shop available for 36 hours. Once that's over, we're going to discontinue that stuff. We might bring it back for another live stream, but it's only available. And I wanted you guys in the train station to know about it. You're the only ones that I've given the link to, so make sure you check it out. I can assure you the next one will include some sort of like water bottle or something.
Yeah, Ken's going to have to eat new treats.
Horrible. I'm so lucky that they're like peanut butter sandwich treats or something like that. I thought you said they were good. They are not good.
Well, I was just trying to like be a good loser last week.
Well.
I may have been embellishing my feelings a little bit. Okay.
I can tell. If this is your first time on the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We publish new videos every single week to help you to have a well-behaved, four-legged family member. I want to thank Dan the man, Dan the moderator man.
He still has like 5 or 6 more to go.
There's so many treats left. You guys have no idea.
Thank you, Dan, for all of your help in the live stream today. We couldn't do it without you.
And SD Cruiser, thank you for jumping in.
Yep.
I want to thank you guys for watching.
Ew, I'm so gross by listening to you eat it right now.
And on that note, I'm Ken.
I'm Kayl, the winner of the challenge.
Happy training, guys. Bye for now.